Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's first video doing USA forecast for today's first video. So as always on a Wednesday, we're having a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days in the United States. And I shall get on with that view very shortly. We'll have a look at SB2 as well, which will extend out to the next 4 weeks. So yeah, I'll get on that view in a moment. Just say that coming up later on today, we're going to have a 10 to 14 day video update. No live stream today. So we're easing off on the live stream for the next month or two. Have a little bit of a break, have a little bit of a rest after what's been a very, very long winter. We will still be carrying on with the Sunday live streams every week as normal. They won't be changing. But midweek live stream, we're easing off on those for a couple of months. And so instead of sort of live streaming a 10 to 14 day update, we're just going to do it as a regular upload actually. So there'll just be an uploaded 10 to 14 day coming up later on today here on the channel. So have a look at that, and it'll be released later on this afternoon. USA forecasts are YouTube exclusive, so these are not embedded to GWV.com. So if you want to be notified when we release these every Wednesday, you will need to subscribe to our channel and click the bell, and then YouTube will notify you when we are releasing the USA forecasts every Wednesday. Same is true with European outlooks on a Thursday as well. Right, let's get on with it, man. We're going to start off with GFS, upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the beginning of this video. So the red lines are 30-year upper air temperature average for Portland, Maine, far northeasternmost state, I believe. So we're a bit up and down with the upper air temperatures. We're actually reasonably mild at the moment. It's going to go colder briefly at the end of this week, but it goes mild into the weekend and early next week before there's a huge plunge in temperature as we go through to the middle part of next week. So some of these on some members go down to like minus 30, 20, minus 30 at 850 HK. Probably won't be quite that cold, but certainly go down to around minus 20 at 850 HK. Another one of those really brutal cold plunges from Canada, but only lasting for like a couple of days. Just the brutal cold air just plunges in for a couple of days and then it's gone. And as we go through the first week of March, we see that the upper air temperatures are becoming a lot milder once again. Averaging it all out, it's probably a milder than average couple of weeks coming up, but with two cold interludes, that's a relatively modest cold interlude for Maine. But this one is an extremely cold plunge which takes place just for a day or two during the early to middle part of next week. Very quickly goes away, and then we're back into something milder. That might be the last brutal cold plunge of the winter, but you never quite know. March can deliver extreme cold to northern and northeastern states, so there might be more of these extreme cold plunges, but that could be the last one of the winter. Precipitation wise, going to be a reasonable amount of dry weather over the next few days. A little bit of snow coming through there at the end of this week. Next week it does turn more unsettled. There will be an area of low pressure involved with this big cold plunge. So initially we get heavy rain, and then we'll get heavy snow, probably blizzards, briefly pushing through during the early to middle part of next week. And then it all goes away, temperatures lift up, so big precipitation spikes just here through the first week of March. Should be rain after probably a snowy transition, maybe even freezing rain transition. We should eventually finish up quite a bit milder and looking more towards rain rather than snow, I would have thought, during the first week of March. Temperature anomalies from the 24th February to 4th March going to be cold of an average to the northwestern states. So quite a cold week coming up in the northwest actually. Despite that cold plunge that we've got coming up through the early part of next week, through the midwest and into the northeast, it's actually not an overly cold week ahead. Certainly nowhere near as cold as it was last week when we saw extreme cold all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Nothing like that in terms of the temperature anomaly this week. As I say, the coldest anomalies are actually out in the northwest. But what this does mask is that there will be a very, very deep cold plunge briefly through the course of next week, through the midwest, and then on into the northeast. Precipitation anomalies from the 24th February to 4th March. Most of the states looking quite dry. There's a swathe of wet weather from Texas to the east coast, but otherwise a lot of dry weather to come in many parts of America. That's how things are looking today then with the GFS. So we've got an area of low pressure that's up in the Midwest. That's going to be producing rain and snow through the Midwest. Drawing up a southerly wind, a mild southerly wind into the southern and southeast states. There's a ridge over towards the west coast. Overhead temperatures look like that. Pretty cold in the northwest, but the coldest temperatures lurking just north of the America-Canada border, just about getting into these extreme northernmost states. Area of low pressure in Midwest does have like a temperature contrast, so mild to the south, about low pressure south and east, generally mild to the northwest is colder, so there will be rain and snow through the Midwest, and generally quite warm in these summer states. Remember how cold it was through these summer states last week, absolutely brutally cold, all the way down Texas and like into the Gulf Coast. Very extreme cold temperature, but it's all gone now. Things are much more comfortable, much more back to normal, much more typical for those southernmost states. Right, so next couple of days we're going to find this area of low pressure pushing through during from the north, from Canada, pushing through the northern states into the Midwest through the weekend. So that's the first little cold snap that will be moving through Midwest. That area of low pressure will bring some quite significant snow to Midwest. Reasonably mild up the east coast with these southerly winds. It's still looking quite cold with some snow out in the northwest as well. Into the early part of next week, we get this next area of low pressure developing around the Midwest, and that starts to pull in extreme cold air from the north. So that's that plunge we saw on the ensemble for Portland, Maine. In comes that extreme cold northerly blast. Look at the upper air temperatures going back down to around minus 30. In these northern states. So again, extremely cold with lots of heavy snow pushing down from Canada into those northern states with this area of low pressure during the early part of next week. Then that low pressure sweeps through to the northeast. So there's the northerly bound the 2nd of March, plunging down into Maine. In the far northeasternmost states. Very extreme cold air. There will be blizzards in with that as well, and brutal cold. Behind that, we get this ridge of high pressure building in from the central states. Look at the upper air temperatures again. Another one of these extreme cold northerly plunges, going nowhere near as far south as last week's northerly did. So it really is restricted to the Midwest and the east and the northeast. But it will be brutally cold during the early part of next week through the Midwest and into the northeast as well, and down the east coast there will be significant blizzards and very cold temperatures. Out in the west it's all much more benign, much quieter weather out through those central western states. And so on the ensemble graph, the cold plunge goes very quickly, so the low pressure goes up to Newfoundland by Wednesday, and we already are starting to turn winds back into west. It's getting milder as we go through to the middle part of next week. We come out of the freezer very quickly, and by the second half of next week, we've got this nice ridge of high pressure building through the Midwest and over towards the east. At the same time, low pressure probably brings cold air in from Western Canada into these northwestern states. So the cold air probably shifts back towards the west coast. But where it was brutally cold just a couple of days before, by Thursday next week, it's becoming much milder through the Midwest and over into those eastern states. And that's really the trend as we go through to the end of next week and on into the first week of March. It will get much milder. Look how quickly the upper air temperatures lift up. Have around minus 20, minus 30 upper air temperatures on Monday, Tuesday. But by Friday next week, it's all gone. It's all cleared away. And the states looking much milder then in the north and the east and through Midwest. Moving up to day 10, which is the 6th of March. Again, lots of dry weather, really. This area of low pressure could bring rain or snow through the Midwest, though, and into those easternmost states. However, high pressure takes over as we go through into the extended range of the GFS run. The high pressure builds down from the north, turning most of these central and eastern states mainly dry. Much more unsettled out in west, with this area of low pressure bringing heavy rain, potentially to some of these more southern states, a little bit unusually so. And on the northern edge of of that, there could be some snow as well, perhaps through the Rockies and Colorado, those sort of states in particular. We move on into the end of the GFS 12Z road, generally staying quite mild, a little bit cold red, just flirting at the very end, the extreme northeast, but overall it's a milder scene then as we go through into March. I think this ridge could well give a taste of spring through these midwestern and eastern states, to be honest. Not looking too bad at all. Colder and more unsettled though out in the northwest. Right, so that's how the GFS looks. This is how the ECM looks for Euro. So again, we find that at the moment we've got this area of low pressure moving through the midwest, bringing rain on the southern side below, snow on the northern side of that area of low pressure. That will clear away as we go through to the end of the week, and then it goes rather quieter for a time into the weekend. We draw up quite a mild southerly wind through both central and eastern states. On into the early part of next week, not quite as much of a northerly blast with the ECM through the early part of next week as the GFS is showing, but nevertheless we do pull down some very cold air into these midwestern and northeastern states as the upper air temperatures showing that the really brutal cold upper air temperatures are sort of restricted a little bit more towards the northernmost states, but it is pushing through the Midwest and could well get into the east and northeast as we go into the middle part of next week with this area of low pressure. It takes a little bit longer, I think, to push those very cold temperatures and the snow through from the Midwest to the northeast, but it's more or less in line, with what the GFS is showing. That's like the end of next week. By this point, the GFS is warming things up through Midwest and the east. The Euro still has these northerly winds blasting down into the northeast, so it takes a little bit longer to get to the cold weather in the northeast. But eventually, it does get to cold weather and probably lasts longer, actually. Meanwhile, out in the west, we'll have quiet weather under the ridge of high pressure, so plenty of quiet weather, but will be quite cold, especially so for those northwest states. That's how long as we get to day 10. Again, northerly still into the far east and the northeast, a ridge of high pressure though, building through the midwest. There's the upper air temperatures. They look very cold from Canada down into the east and the northeast. So the brutal cold does eventually get there into the midwest and the northeast next week, but it just takes a couple of days longer. Meanwhile, heat's starting to build in the southwest, so states like Arizona, for example, and Nevada could well be starting to see the heat really beginning to build up already. I mean, it's only the 6th of March, but becoming very hot in this southwestern corner, and of course it won't be long before extreme heat is back in those southern and southwestern states as the summer of 2021 commences. Right, let's just have a look at CFSV2. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period takes from 23rd to 23rd of February to 1st of March. This low pressure will bring those very cold temperatures through the Midwest and into the northeast, but not getting down into the states. This ridge of high pressure will stop the cold air getting into the southern states, so no freeze up to the south like we had last week. And the high pressure causes out off the Pacific coast of the west of America, and that will bring cold air, but mainly dry conditions to those western states. Go through to week 2, which is taken to the 8th of March. A ridge then sitting through central and eastern states, probably bringing up a mild southerly wind through those central and eastern parts of America. Week 3 is the 9th to the 15th of March. Again, a ridge of high pressure in the east and the northeast, probably bringing up relatively mild air through the central and east states. Low pressure out to the west will bring some colder air into particularly the northwest, probably. And week 4 is the 16th to the 22nd of March. That one again with high pressure up to the east and northeast and also down to the southwest. That's going to bring some very hot temperatures into the southwest. Of course, if it comes off, low pressure keeps things colder into the northwestern part of America and more unsettled. Week 1 temperature anomalies look generally mild and average away from the northwest, so yeah, quite a bit of mild weather to come. We know we've got this cold air from Canada pushing through Midwest and into the east for a couple of days next week, but generally probably reasonably mild through both central and eastern states. Could be a little bit overdone though, I think, for the Midwest and for the northeast. That's week 2, taken to the 8th of March. Again, generally looking significantly mild and average away from the far west anyway. Week 3 is going to be the 9th through to the 15th of March. That one looks significantly milder than average in most parts of America. Again, it's this Pacific western side, but does look colder into the early part of March. And then week 4 is the 16th to the 22nd of March. Notice the heat building in the southwest now. And just generally a milder than average and warmer than average seen in most parts of America. A little bit cooler in the southeastern corner. The coldest temperatures to average, though, are in the northwest, northern California, and then up into Oregon and Washington state. And the precipitation anomaly looks like that. Again, the emphasis is on dry weather in many parts of America, with exceptions. So this area here is a little bit wetter, and in the northwest too. But otherwise, quite a bit of dry weather to come in the week ahead. Week 2 is going to be the 2nd to the 8th of March. Driving average in the south, driving average in the northwest. Looks wetter through the midwest and into the east. Week 3 is the 9th through to the 15th of March. We'll be driving average across the southern states. A little bit wetter than average through the midwest and into the northeast. And then week 4 is going to be the 16th. Let's highlight it again. Going to be the 16th through to the 22nd of March. And it looks wetter than average in the west and northwest. Driving average through most of the southern states. A little bit above average rainfall in the northeast. Or for precipitation, given that could be a mix of rain or snow. Right, that's it then. So the extreme cold that we had last week, covering most parts of America, engulfing most parts of America, as it did, has gone. However, there will be some more cold weather for the Midwest and for the Northeast during the early part of next week. I think early to mid next week does go colder again, maybe extremely so. Doesn't last all that long, should lift out by the end of next week. And then we may well go into a spell of quite mild and quiet spring-like weather through most parts of America during the early part of March. If you enjoyed USA Forecast, please smash your like button. Let us know in the comments what you think, and make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Click the bell, and you'll be able to be notified when we release these every Wednesday. We'll be back later on with the 10 to 14 day video update for the UK and for Europe as well. So come back for that then. For this one though, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.